You want to know how Kadena Price is going to move, and I'm getting ready to show you using the clearly labeled objects behind me right here, and we're going to piece together how price is going to interact with those levels based on our developed understanding of what's going on in traditional markets. If you haven't seen my Bitcoin video today that covered traditional markets at the first half, you need to watch that video first. You can click here or wait till the end of the video and I'll link that to you. But how price moving forward the next 5 to 30 days, all right, how price interacts with these levels is going to depend on SPX and your ability to anticipate how price behaves at these levels. It's going to strictly depend on your understanding of what's happening with the S&P 500. Namely, it's just easier to use that chart. It's essentially the one that moves Bitcoin and crypto the most accurately. So I cover that again today in my Bitcoin video so you can have the correct expectations. And as you're dealing with Kadena, and if you're trading Kadena, whether it's futures or spot trade, just realize you need to compare it directly to SPX almost at all times, particularly when Kadena is interacting with one of these levels. Am I making sense? All right, let's light some fires and go get some Kadena. All right, Kadena has gone below my first area of support where I did fully expect it to bounce. Roughly 45-degree angle. I thought it was gonna, honestly, I thought it was gonna bounce. Where did I have that labeled? I think I had it right here. So it's gone a little bit deeper into the zone than I thought, but what it's reaching down to get is this level right here. And this is where you have a couple or maybe even three. I think you have one wick and 2 weekly candle bodies right here at this blue line. So Kadena buyers are not going to step in until roughly $1.74, $1.75, $1.73, somewhere in that area, because it's weekly support. The horizontal traders, that's when they're going to step in. All right. And that's also when the sell pressure of Kadena is going to, kind of start waning there, because they're going to expect some type of bounce. So I expect Kadena to sell off until $1.73. Now, here's one of the instances where it's going to depend on SPX, because the first thing, this weekly support here, if Kadena is reaching this level as SPX, okay, so right now, if SPX is floating up as Kadena goes down, that means SPX is approaching a lower high. And what happens after a lower high? You go down. So let me go to the US 500 chart, just give you one example. And I'm not going to do this the whole darn video for every single level, but let's say that on the 5-minute chart, SPX, as Kadena is floating down to that level, is going up, right? And it's here. Actually, let's get rid of that. And you see it hit a key level because you understand what SPX is doing. You've watched my videos on that. And Kadena is just at this point, as SPX is right here, is touching that line. And then SPX starts heading down. Well, then you know that there's a heightened or increased chance that Kadena ignores that level and just blasts down through it, because SPX leads the market. And if Kadena is here as SPX approaches, makes a lower high and goes down, it's going to go below here. So that's one specific example of how to interpret this chart and how to anticipate how is price going to react with these COSAS levels. Makes sense that I have clearly labeled here and what they are and what price they are. So I'm not going to specifically guess it's going to bounce here and then it's going exactly up here. Honestly, that is a pretty good guess. That's probably what's going to happen, but there is a specific condition under which it won't happen. And you need to have, you need to flip back and forth between Kadena and SPX. I'm telling you. All right. Now, if no weird timing like that happens on Kadena versus SPX, then here's what I can expect to happen. You need to have on both your weekly 10. So I have it labeled here. Weekly 10 is the red guy, and the white one is the daily 10, which moves faster. You need both on your chart. Okay. Remember I told you about the daily 89, how it's going to act as resistance, and it was going to get stuck between the 89 and this origin line and then bust down if it can't stay above the origin line. It's exactly what happened, right? And it's exactly where it went up to. That would have gotten you in a trade of like the quarter. Hell, that's like 30% down from there. 25. That was 25% raw price trade with no leverage. Before leverage, that'd be huge, right? So, but I'm telling you, this time you need the daily 10 and weekly 10, just like I was telling you, need the daily 89 before this ever happened. I was telling you down here as it hit the origin line, right? So I'm very likely going to be correct on this. You need those two EMAs. Now, what's going to happen here is, when price, or when the EMAs are interacting, not price, but EMAs are interacting with these lines, like the daily 10, let's extend it. Let me make it white. So the daily 10 is white. That's when price can potentially ignore a horizontal resistance and then just want to go up to the daily 10 and maybe get a liquidity grab even above it, and then use this as support, lower high, and then break down below it. Something to that effect. It's completely possible. So, for example, let me show you what I just did there. So, if price races up to the daily 10, okay, and the daily 10, so this white line, is not quite to here yet, that means price has a better chance of ignoring this horizontal and going above it to touch the daily 10 EMA. But if it gets to the daily 10, as the daily 10 is still close to this horizontal, which I have clearly labeled over here at $2, then that means that price the bots are going to want to grab stops and then go down to go even above the daily 10. So you have a few lines here, and I could easily see that happening. So Kadena actually has a chance to ignore the daily 10 because it's getting ready to float between here. And I could easily see $2 be, honestly, your next. This is not financial advice, but I don't want to give short setups, obviously, on YouTube because that's a paid for service, and it's just, you can't do that on YouTube really, but I don't know. It looks like a pretty good level. Again, definitely not financial advice. Don't come back here and say, Costa said I did 100x leverage and I sold my house or whatever. Don't do that. But it does look like a pretty highly probable trade if it were to get to $2 because it's going to be overextended on its first push above the daily 10. But anyway, so it's not just how price is interacting with these levels, but it's where the key EMAs, the daily 10 is, and the weekly 10, where those two are compared to these horizontals that I have labeled. And if price can get to the EMA of resistance, as it's still kind of close to a horizontal just above it, it's going to wick above it, take out that liquidity, and then go down. Am I making sense there? All right. So it's going to be a little bit trickier to play, but your litmus test here is, in general terms, you're going to bounce around between these lines. And what's going to cause price to finally give way below it and just go below horizontal is this EMA, is the EMA. So the EMA is going to essentially trap price. And as price is trying to use this as support, let's say it comes back up, it tries to use it as support, but finally the weekly 10 and daily 10 just say, I'm going below, so you got to go too. That's roughly what's going to happen. But before the EMAs can squeeze price below horizontal, before that happens, you can have price come and take people's stops. All right, essentially before the daily 10 EMA gets down to about $1.90 here to this horizontal. All right. So before that happens, you can have a little bit more playroom. I would say your first nice lower high will happen as high as $2, or what could happen is the buy pressure is just gone, and the EMA actually acts as perfect resistance. And Kadena comes, uses the weekly support, comes up, gets resistance, forms a little triangle here, and squeezes out because the daily 10, the white. Make that white. It's possible that this happens and your triangle happens here. So you're looking for essentially price getting trapped between some horizontal, above a horizontal using as support, but below an EMA using as resistance, and it resolves itself to the downside, essentially forming a triangle because it's like I can't go below, but I can't go above. Can't go below, but can't go above. Can't go. Oh, I gotta go below because the EMA squished me below. And that's essentially what you're looking for. And that's how you're going to play Kadena price. But to give you another layer of how to interpret how price is going to interact with this, make sure you're flipping back and forth between SPX, and make sure, as I cover traditional markets on my Bitcoin videos, just watch my Bitcoin videos as well. Speaking of the devil, click this video if you missed my Bitcoin video today, where I focus the first half on traditional markets. It'll give you a great understanding of how to play Kadena. And click this video right here if you want to learn how to set up a chart like mine, use templates, use object tree, all that fancy stuff with the free version even. You just got Tim Fat Worldwide. Peace.